Frank, Barry, Sammy, and Jack have been exiled from their community, and in their search for a new home, they stumble upon Foodtopia, a city that at first glance looks like paradise, but hides a dark secret. In Foodtopia, the morning sun shines bright, a festive vibe fills every corner, and everything seems perfectly in harmony. Frank strolls through the streets, as the others cheer him on like a hero. The city is thriving, and it looks like things can only get better until he hears the news that Brenda has been brought back to life. But that joy is short-lived. It turns out to be nothing more than a dream. Frank wakes up next to Jack, ready to start a new day, but unlike his dream, reality is far less kind. No one respects him, and even fewer value what he does. One of Foodtopia's biggest problems is a shortage of refrigerators, forcing the more perishable residents to take turns using them. Frank comes up with a plan to expand the number of fridges, making Foodtopia a colder and safer place. The catch is, he needs everyone's help, especially Jack's, to get one of the new units in place. But just the idea of Frank working with Jack sparks suspicion and resentment. To many, helping a human is a dangerous mistake that will only bring trouble to the entire food population. That disapproval even shows up in street art, with graffiti hinting that Jack is getting special treatment and excessive protection from Frank, almost as if there's something more between them. Later, Barry and Sammy witness something suspicious. There's a plot to overthrow Frank's regime, but first, they have to get rid of Jack. And the best chance to do it will be while he's asleep. To sneak in and learn the details, Barry and Sammy disguise themselves as Duncan and Sinead, carrying a map to pinpoint the plan's exact location. The idea is to distract Barry with a piece of graffiti, while others slip inside to kill him and Jack in their sleep. Barry and Sammy try to talk them out of killing Frank too, warning that the guilt would be unbearable. But the conspirators already have a clever workaround. Everyone will carry fake knives except for one real blade, meaning there's only a 10% chance anyone delivers the fatal blow, and no one will know who it was. The ruse doesn't last long. They're discovered, but manage to bargain for their lives. On one condition, they must help exile Jack and Frank. Barry rushes back to warn Frank and lead him toward the exit, unknowingly sealing their own fate. They too are betrayed and banished. Before leaving, they're told in no uncertain terms that there won't be a second chance if they ever come back. For Frank, it's devastating. Brenda's death was for nothing. He feels betrayed, especially since he was the one who led the rebellion at the supermarket. Sammy tries to lift their spirits, reminding them there's still plenty of food out there that needs freeing. Even Jack suggests heading to his hometown, filled with restaurants and supermarkets, to give everyone a fresh start. So they set out on a new mission, reach Jack's home city. The journey is brutal. No water, relentless heat. Jack can't go on, so Barry motivates him by slipping into his pants, forcing him to run. That gets them into a dilapidated tunnel, but an argument between Frank and Barry pushes Jack to punch the tunnel walls, nearly collapsing it on them. Still, they make it through. On the other side, the site is nothing like Jack remembered. The city is deserted. No one knows exactly what happened. Some humans died, and plenty of food along with them. Following a trail of strawberries, they search for answers, but another problem arises. Jack starts losing his ability to see that they're alive. He needs more magic salts to maintain that vision. In the middle of their search, they're attacked by hostile wild berries targeting Jack. Frank and the others refuse to let him die, helping him leap across a gap to safety. Their hope of finding more like them seems to fade until they spot a distant city overflowing with food. At dawn, they decide to head there for a fresh start, but because of Jack's condition and the fact that he's losing his sight of them due to salt withdrawal, they agree to leave him in the forest. Bringing the last living human into the city just doesn't seem wise. When they arrive, they're amazed at how quickly the locals have adapted and kept their economy going. Even the cars have been modified, so any kind of food, perishable or not, can drive them. As they explore, a storm approaches, making the duo nervous, but the city surprises them again. A protection system activates to shield all the residents. It's perfect, everything they need to survive, even an abundance of refrigerators, the very resource that once caused so much conflict back home. Still, Barry suspects perfection like this must be hiding something sinister. Frank, on the other hand, chooses to believe they finally found the home they always dreamed of, the one they could never build themselves. Meanwhile, Jack hears a noise and thinks it's Frank coming back for him, but it's not. In that that moment, he's attacked by other food. Meanwhile, back in the city, Frank is still convinced they've found the perfect place to live. Though Barry remains skeptical, he just can't believe so much perfection and happiness could exist in one place. From a distance, Barry spots a jar of food about to be attacked, and without hesitation, he rushes in to help. Frank, on the other hand, works up the courage to introduce himself to the city's residents, but something feels off. Everyone stops and stares at him, and suddenly, their expressions shift, as if something or someone is silently giving them orders. Barry experiences the same unsettling reaction, and Sammy, who had wandered off to catch a movie, runs into the same problem. The moment he shows up, every person in the theater turns to look at him with that same eerie fixed gaze. The three are quickly surrounded by locals, leaving them no choice but to run. They manage to take shelter in a car, and after some struggle, get the engine started, but just as they feared, they crash. To their surprise, the crowd that looked ready to tear them apart doesn't attack. Instead, they lift them up, cheer for their arrival, and without further explanation, take them to meet their leader. Her name is Trish, a walnut, who immediately recognizes them as the great liberators that once inspired others to follow in their footsteps. Trish explains the city's system of government. It's run by representatives from every food group, each responsible for the well-being of their category. The meeting is cut short by big news. Jack has been found in the forest and is being taken to a special section of the city. Frank and the others feel they should help him, but worry that revealing their pro-human might get them exiled as well. Even so, they head to Jack's location, only to find the other foods bathing him. What looked like a death sentence is actually an act of kindness. They're giving him a patch of bath salts so he can see them again. Something about it still feels strange. The logical thing would be to get rid of him, until Sammy glances out a window and makes a shocking discovery. There's an entire section of the city dedicated exclusively to humans. It has every comfort imaginable and is in fact the real source of the city's prosperity. In short, humans have been domesticated. One clear example comes when a shipment of refrigerators arrives. The foods have developed technology with the help of human knowledge from their old lives. This symbiotic relationship has led to innovations like vehicle operation, medical advancements, and even literacy. That's how New Foodland flourished. With human support, Trish sets up a meeting between Sammy and a famous filmmaker so he can share his ideas. Frank is invited to join the city council thanks to his natural leadership skills, which will help maintain a peaceful, balanced government. Barry, having no clear passion or interest yet, will have to wait, but Trish assures him that when he finds something he truly loves, she'll be more than happy to hear him out. Sammy meets Mr. Capicola, a bacon filmmaker who's adapted major human movie hits for the big screen. Sammy wants to tell real stories inspired by food, and his enthusiasm convinces Capicola to help bring his vision to life. Meanwhile, Jack is introduced to the other humans, but because he's been eating human parts to avoid consuming supermarket food, he briefly feels tempted to do it again. Still, he's instantly smitten with a girl named Jill until they're interrupted for training hour. In the training hall, Barry is still unsure what role he should play in the city. When the session starts, he sees the perfect opportunity to stand out. He'll ride Jack as his jockey, bareback, with no protection, to prove his courage. Jack competes against Jill and actually does pretty well, but along the way he takes several hits and spills that leave him sore. Even so, he doesn't manage to beat Jill or her seasoned jockey. Despite the loss, Barry realizes he needs to improve his skills to take care of his human and make sure he performs at his best. The experience helps both Barry and Jack earn a place in the community. Barry and Dijon start training in hand-to-hand combat, eventually building a special bond. That night, Jack and Jill take time to get to know each other. Jill confesses she has a strange fascination with horses, and Jack, being so open and easygoing, strikes a unique connection with her. Meanwhile, Trish introduces Frank to the council, as he now represents the nitrates. Unfortunately, Frank can't read, and it becomes painfully obvious when he has to choose a topic to open the session. Humiliated, he decides to take classes to learn to read and write, knowing it'll take time. When he finally succeeds, he graduates and earns the praise of everyone around him. Sammy, on the other hand, is deep into filming his own script, an adaptation of the events at the supermarket. Now, as both writer and director, he has the freedom to add changes and a more suggestive tone. He even invents an action scene with Lavish, where Lavish dies in his arms, turning the story into a poetic mix of love and hate only Sammy could pull off. When he presents the rough cut, there's no applause, just a deep, stunned silence, the kind that says his film is so powerful, any ovation would feel inadequate. Elsewhere, Jack and Barry are sent on a special mission to collect fuel. That same night, all the humans in the city, along with their respective riders, take part in an operation with one shocking goal: to literally eat other foods. Horrified by what they've just witnessed, Barry and Jack feel deeply unsettled. Meanwhile, at the council, different proposals for the city's future are being debated. Frank seizes the moment to point out that Foodtopia could have been just as prosperous, which sparks interest the moment everyone hears about a city filled with all kinds of foods, perfect for feeding their humans, though Frank himself has no idea about that last detail. Barry quickly tells his friends what's going on. Frank plans to convince the council that what they're doing is wrong, while Sammy hopes to achieve the same thing through film. Frank confronts the council directly, and Trish lays it all out for him. Humans need food to live, so they can keep the refrigerators running, generate electricity, tend the gardens, and even teach classes. Food is essential for proper nutrition. She adds that the rations are the bare minimum, and what hits Frank the hardest is hearing that Brenda would have loved to live in New Foodland, even if it meant making small sacrifices for the greater good. Meanwhile, Jack is on the brink of starvation. A month without food has started to take a serious toll on both his body and mind. Jill learns that he can't eat the city's food because he survived by eating other humans. What could seem unforgivable at first turns out not to be. Jill and the others admit they've done questionable things to survive too. No one judges him. They all accept him despite his dark past. Barry tries to convince Dijon that what they're doing is wrong, but it doesn't work, though he does seem to hit a nerve. Frank faces the same struggle, now understanding how hard it is to make certain decisions. This pressure pushes Barry to the edge, to the point of nearly setting fire to the place where all the humans sleep. But he stops when he sees Jack happy, enjoying the love he's found with Jill. Frank walks the streets, weighed down by guilt. The city has everything, happiness and harmony, but it's all built on the deaths of other foods. Eventually, he returns to the council with an alternative feeding plan, one based on humans, following the same diet Jack used to survive. But the assembly is already in progress, and the topic on the table is a new plan to secure fuel, a plan called Foodtopia, the very place Frank and his friends were exiled from. Even though the mission would mean enough food to keep the humans fed for months, Frank refuses to be the one to hand over those he once called friends. The council puts the proposal to a vote, and as expected, it passes. The operation will take place in 2 days. Frank rushes to tell Barry what's about to happen, but Barry explodes when he hears it. Not just because no one ever told him about Foodtopia, but because now they only know about it thanks to Frank slipping up and revealing that it's overflowing with food. Sammy takes a different stance. He's convinced that through film, he can change people's perception without violence. That's why he chooses not to join the mission, staying instead to attend the premiere of his movie, scheduled for the next day. Frank and Barry go looking for Jack, but Jack is cold and distant, accusing Frank of never visiting him for an entire month, and now suddenly showing up just because he needs something. Jack sees no reason to return. In Foodtopia, they wanted him dead, while here he's accepted and cared for. Frank, unable to understand, lashes out with hurtful words, pushing Jack to do something he hasn't done in a long time: eat food, and specifically, sausages. Frank and Barry get their hands on a car built especially for food and make a run for it, unaware that Dijon has spotted them. During the escape, Barry feels Dijon closing in, and for a moment, he nearly accepts his fate. But Frank comes up with an idea: head into the forest where the wild berries live. The result is shocking. Dijon and Jill wipe out the berries with ease, forcing Barry and Frank to flee before they're caught. To buy time, Barry uses the body of a dead stick of butter as a distraction. Moments later, vultures begin circling overhead, ready to devour the two sausages. They manage to hide inside a rotting pumpkin and use it to float their way to a collapsing bridge. Dijon catches on to their maneuver and goes after them. Wasting no time, Barry whips up an improvised mix to create a projectile, firing it at the tunnel ceiling. The blast brings the whole thing down, blocking their pursuer's path. Meanwhile, Sammy's movie premieres. It's an award-worthy piece that shows war isn't the answer, that humans and food should learn to coexist instead of killing each other. The film moves everyone in the audience, except the members of the council. Trish makes Frank and Barry's actions public, turning the entire city against them. This time, the full military force will mobilize to ensure the mission against Foodtopia succeeds. The offensive begins, everyone loads up into trucks, and Sammy is strapped to the front of one of the vehicles. Jack, despite everything, doesn't want to kill Frank. Deep down, he still cares about him. Since he has no rider, he's assigned to Maverick, the one who drove his last partner to madness after the tragic death of Goose, his brother and fellow soldier, during a failed training mission. The humans are sent to clear the rocks blocking the tunnel, opening the way to the city. When Barry and Frank reach Foodtopia, they're surprised to find it empty. Investigating further, they discover why everyone has joined forces to bring back the same refrigerator Jack once tried to haul up in the past. The city is more united than ever, and Brenda has been turned into a symbol of hope and values. Barry and Frank try to warn them of the coming danger, but no one believes them, and they're thrown out again. Unfortunately, that's when Trish arrives with her full army, and there's nothing left to do. Trish's forces set up base near Foodtopia's entrance and tie Frank and Barry up alongside Sammy. The first infiltration attempt fails. The Foods, warned by Frank, fight back and even injure two of the invading humans. Enraged at being fed false intel, Trish subjects the three prisoners to torture. Barry and Frank are threatened with being breaded and deep-fried in oil if they don't reveal another way into the city. Barry manages to persuade Dijon to spare him, momentarily halting the interrogation, but since neither he nor Frank will talk, their immediate execution is approved. Before anything can happen, their Foodtopia friends arrive just in time to rescue them. Back in Foodtopia, everyone arms themselves to the teeth. War is now inevitable. Barry proposes a plan that could turn the tide, capture the humans, not to hurt them, but to control them, since the enemy army outnumbers them 13-1. When everyone is ready, they see a car speeding toward the city entrance, clearly intending to ram through. It smashes past the defenses, and everyone rushes to take down the driver, only to find the car is empty. It was a diversion. The humans were already inside. Jack had been forced by Trish to reveal the secret entrance, under the threat that Jill would pay the price. Chaos erupts on the battlefield. Both sides take heavy losses. Determined to see his plan through, Barry uses Frank as bait, and at the perfect moment, sprays the human riders' visors, blinding them. The confusion forces the riders to open their capsules to regain visibility, giving Barry and the others the chance to take control of several humans and turn them against their own army. Barry even manages to take down Maverick. In the middle of the chaos, Barry clashes with Dijon. While Jack and Jill face off directly, Barry's lack of combat experience puts him at a disadvantage, and Jill is seconds away from killing Jack. She hesitates, begging Dijon to stop, but Dijon reminds her that as a human, Jill is nothing more than a worthless tool. Then the tide suddenly turns. Everyone starts clutching their stomachs in pain. It's Jack's backup plan. He'd slipped them meatballs laced with laxatives minutes earlier. Jill's rider loses control of his human, and Jack and Jill decide to join forces and live together. But the battle isn't over. Now they're being chased by enemy food intent on taking down the humans. Everyone runs to a truck, trying to escape. Barry faces Dijon once again in hand-to-hand combat, but when he sees the sheer destruction around them, he drops his sword, choosing to fight for peace instead. Suddenly, a helicopter sweeps in overhead and, using a massive magnet, lifts the truck with all the humans inside. Seeing this, and desperate to apologize, Frank dives in with a note of forgiveness. Trish tries to stop him, forcing Frank into a hard choice. He slaps the note on the truck's window and lets himself fall. Trish slams into the asphalt, her shell cracking, while Frank is pulled to safety by his friends. From inside the truck, Jack catches sight of Frank's apology note, but something even bigger is about to happen. When they reach their destination, mission, they find what's left of humanity's last resistance. With humans on the brink of extinction, any help is welcome, and Jack and Jill become key players in the counterattack. They're shown a weapon powerful enough to take back the life they once had before the rebellion, but to do it they'll have to launch it first, and right there, the season ends.